Hi, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of Utah State women's basketball. Aggies in Mountain West Conference action tonight as they take on the New Mexico Lobos down here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We are at Dreamstyle Arena where teams getting warmed up and ready to go. Aggies have a tough test on their hand tonight with New Mexico, a very good team. We're going to break that all down for you here on the pregame show, and here's some thoughts from Coach Jerry Finkbeiner before we get started. I'm Jaden Johnson with the call of the game, and thanks for tuning in to Aggie Radio for USU Women's Hoops, your home of Utah State women's basketball all season long. Utah State really facing a good team tonight. New Mexico, a 16-6 team coming into this, 4-5 though in Mountain West play. They've really cooled down a lot. They started out very, very well, 11-0. They were nationally ranked for a little while in the top 25. Looked like the hands-down team to beat in the Mountain West Conference, and then once play started in the Mountain West, things kind of went weird. And as I mentioned, 4-5 Mountain West record, and certainly not what I think many people that follow the conference, certainly not what New Mexico themselves thought, but along with that, they started out 3-0 in Mountain West play. They defeated Air Force, defeated Nevada, and defeated a very good Boise State team by 17 points. Since that point, they have gone 1-5. They lost to San Jose State, they lost to Wyoming, beat Fresno State, and then lost to UNLV, San Diego State, and Colorado State. So New Mexico looking to bust out of a little bit of a slump. 3 straight losses, 5 out of 6 losses in their last games. And but this is a really, really talented New Mexico team, and one that plays very well at home. They're 13-1 here in this building. So if you're Utah State, it's certainly going to be a tough challenge, and especially when you look at some of the players this New Mexico team has. Number one player that you need to watch out for if you're Utah State, and you're going to hear Coach Finkbeiner talk about this player, Charisse Bainon. If you're a Mountain West basketball fan, if you followed Utah State, if you followed any Mountain West team over the last 4 years, you certainly know this name. She is just a phenomenal senior for New Mexico. She started every single game of her career, 118 starts here for New Mexico. She is the Mountain West preseason player of the year, averaging 17.5 points per game. That's first in the Mountain West Conference. 5.2 rebounds per game, 7.1 assists per game. You heard that right. That is 8th in the nation. And 2.5 steals per game, 2nd in the Mountain West Conference. I mean, those numbers speak for themselves. But, again, the Mountain West preseason player of the year, likely the Mountain West player of the year when all is said and done. She's coming off a 41-point game against San Diego State, followed by a 30-point game against Colorado State. So a big key of the game going to be containing her. And, again, you're going to hear Coach Finkbeiner speak about that in a few minutes here as we play an interview from him. But Utah State finding their rhythm, starting to come into their own. You know, it's been a brutal season for the Aggies. Really, I mean, a lot of tough games. And a lot of close games that they just came out on the wrong side of, but a big win over Fresno State just last, I guess it was Saturday, 4 days ago on Saturday. Utah State beat Fresno State 60-52 in Logan. Probably, maybe not the best game of the season for Utah State, because I would say probably the win against Nevada was a little bit better start to finish for the Aggies, but one of the best games for the Aggies. Really looked good against a very talented Fresno State team and led from start to finish. Utah State started out that game and in the first quarter led 19-2. Things went south in the second quarter, got outscored quite badly. It started to look like it might be a game, and that Fresno State had the momentum, and then coming out of halftime, Utah State just played solid basketball throughout the entire second half. They shot the ball decently well. They spread the floor really well, got open shots, got the shots they wanted. A lot of assists, 16 to be exact, and out-rebounded them, 49-34. That was the biggest key after an ugly rebounding performance against Fresno State, or against Air Force just a few nights earlier. So Utah State, I mean, coming off a game like that, they have to be feeling good because they just looked solid. They looked like a great team in that game. They looked like the team that I think everyone expected them to be this year, and they've just fallen short of. But again, a really tough New Mexico team. A team that, while they've struggled early on here in conference play, I think has as good of a shot as anybody, if not better, to win the Mountain West Conference once we head down to Vegas here in March. Anyway, we're going to hop over to an interview. This was about an hour ago at the team hotel with Coach Jerry Finkbeiner, the head coach of the Utah State Aggies. Talks about that game, the big win against Fresno State, kind of breaks that down a little bit and mentions what the key components to that victory were, and then also talks about tonight's game, how they're going to contain Shree Spanion, and I found it very informative. So here is Coach Jerry Finkbeiner. Best basketball. All right, Coach. Coming off a big win against Fresno State. Seems like the team played some of their best basketball of the season. Really big start, and then, outscore them. What was it, 19-2 in the first quarter, and then the second quarter really dropped off. But then, seems like the team really bounced back, played resilient, and played some hard-nosed basketball in the second half. Just talk about the resilience of the team in that game and being able to keep themselves in it after a rough second quarter.
Well, that's really who we want to be. The way we performed for 40 minutes against Fresno State. That second quarter, almost to be expected. They were 5-3 coming in here with conference play and a winning record overall, and they're not going to lay over and play dead, just dropping the first quarter to us. So we were resilient. We fought back and kept that 8 to 10 point lead the rest of the game and finished it. So that's really the Aggie team that we want to be day in and day out. And we've had 3 or 4 of those kind of games at home. Now we got to reproduce that same effort, that same 40-minute consistency on the road, and tonight's is going to be quite a challenge to do that.
In that game, the team out-rebounded Fresno State 49-34. That was something they really struggled struggled in the game before against Air Force. But you said that you challenged them to go out, beat their season average. So how do you, as a team going forward, hold on to that same energy and the motivation to rebound like that game?
Well, it's a good question, and it really gets back to the challenges and the individual players on the team accept it. If we can accept the challenges on individual level, then it transforms over and transfers into a team thing. I challenged each of the girls before the game against Fresno I gave them their season rebound averages, offensive, defense, and total rebounds per game. I challenged each one of them to do better than that in tonight's game versus Fresno, and almost every one of them achieved that, and consequently our rebound stat went up about 13, 14 over a typical game, over our season average. We averaged about 32 a game, I think, had 49 in that game, so it's a really good effort on the boards. And it's one of the, consistently looking at it, the wins we've had this year, we've out-rebounded our opponents. We've had less turnovers, and that Fresno game, same thing, out-rebounded our opponents, had less turnovers. And transversely with, all of our losses, or most of our losses, we've been out-rebounded. We've had more turnovers. So it's pretty objective, pretty plain, pretty out there. Again, I just, at the individual level, achieving their goals individually, and it'd be a good team thing if everybody can meet their own individual goals.
So New Mexico plays at a really fast pace. One of the fastest paces in the nation when you look at points per game and whatnot. And it seems like there's not really a ton that they don't do well. So when you're preparing for a team like this, what are the main points that you stress in practice and you stress leading up to the game with the team?
Well, first of all, I think they're 11-2 at home, so they're an outstanding home team. On the road, they're struggling a little bit in conference. They didn't play much on the road during pre-conference, but now they've hit the conference, and they've lost 4 games on the road in conference, so which is kind of surprised everybody, got everybody's attention. The key tonight is that they're going to have quantity of shots, quantity of threes, quantity of offensive rebound putbacks, and we've got to really face that stat with quality shots, quality possessions, and less turnovers. And so it'll be, from our perspective, just using those 2 words, our quality versus their quantity, who's going to win out.
So Sharice Benyon, she's had just a phenomenal 4-year career. She's Mountain West preseason player of the year. I imagine there's a lot of Mountain West coaches ready to see her graduate. And she's coming off of a 41 and a 30-point game. So it seems like this season, though, when your team has played against some really great guards that are in the Mountain West, they've done a decent job containing those. When you're playing against a player like that, what do you do to prepare, and how do you plan differently?
Well, we got to kind of write it off that she's going to get her points, because again, she's a quantity shooter, and the night she gets 40 points, they're going in. She's always going to get 20, 25, so we almost have to write off 20, 25 points to her. I think our guard play, our 1, 2, and 3 guard, Vic, Eliza, and Rachel, are as good as any guard core in the conference. So we're going to try to control the middle part of the court, try to win the battle of 3 guards versus 3 guards versus 1 guard versus 1 guard. Vic Price is really coming into her own now defensively. She's gained a lot of confidence. I think if anybody on our team can control this Banyan, it'd be Vic. Olivia would be tag teaming with her, maybe even Jessie Greer. So we've got some quickness to combat that, but we can't blink because she'll fire it up from 35 feet out. I mean, she's got the green light on their team. But I think the key to their game is their post player by the name of Nunn. We've been given fits by girls like this player. She's an inside out high post driver, very strong physical player. Haley Bassett tends to get in foul trouble against these kids like this, so we're going to try to hide Haley a little bit defensively. We need Haley to score points, and we need Haley to be in the basketball game. So I think Banyan's going to get hers. None is going to be the key to our win or not tonight here at New Mexico.
Coach, appreciate the time. Good luck tonight.
All right, thanks, Jaden.
All right, so that's head coach of the Utah State Aggies, Coach Jerry Finkbeiner, giving a little bit of insight about tonight's game and how they plan to contain this New Mexico team, a very explosive, very high-scoring, very fast-paced team with a few absolute stars on it. And we'll look a little bit further into his comments as the game goes on, but I found the most interesting thing of that to be him talking about Sharice Bannon and how they plan to, I mean, he said that you really can't plan to slow down a player like that. You can't plan that she's not going to get 15, 20 points because, I mean, she's averaging 17 and a half per game. You've just kind of got to expect that, but that he has faith that this Utah State guard group, the 3 guards, can be able to match the 3 guards from New Mexico. But, you know, what he said about Jason Nunn, the center for New Mexico, absolutely true. This entire season, Utah State has really struggled to contain tough post players. You look at UNLV, very good post. You look at Colorado State, very good post. And those have been some of the toughest games for the Aggies. Boise State, same way. So, you know, while the natural focus wants to hop to the guard play of New Mexico, which is amazing. I think probably the best backcourt in the league. It's interesting that he changed that. He took that and focused it instead on Jason Nunn in the center, the post for New Mexico, and how that's going to be the biggest place to watch and the biggest place where they're going to make up some ground tonight. Anyway, we've got the colors coming out. We're going to have the national anthem here in just a moment, so we'll keep it here, but pause for just a moment for the national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please rise for the presentation of our colors this evening, being presented by the Army ROTC, commanded by Cadet Padilla. Fans, please remain standing for the national anthem. The anthem is being performed by Victoria Rodriguez.
Proudly we hail
All right, we are just a few minutes from tip-off here in Albuquerque. We're at Dreamstyle Arena, better known as the Pit, one of the most formidable places in both men's and women's college basketball to play. You've got a combination of a very high elevation. Of course, that's not going to have much effect on this game, but a combination of that, a big crowd, probably twice the size of any crowd that Utah State has played in front of this season. They average over 5,000 people per game, 5,160 people per game. That's 15th in the nation for attendance for women's basketball here at this venue. And that's the reason why they are so good at home. 13-1 this season. They've had a lot of home games, which certainly contributes to the success they've had. But 13-1, they take care of business when they're here. And it's not easy for any team, despite losing 5 of their last 6. It's tough to win here. The only team that's been able to do so here in the last quite a while the only team this season that has won here was UNLV, and that was back on the 17th, coincidentally the last home game that they had here. So another trend that you like if you're Utah State. Starting lineups being announced here, so we'll have those in just a moment. But let's take a look at some of these New Mexico numbers. New Mexico, I mentioned in that interview, and I've said it here in the pregame, that they are a very high-paced team. They averaged 83.5 points per game. That's 11th in the nation. Now, you might say maybe they're just really good at shooting, maybe they're just really good at scoring. It's really about the pace, because they also allow 73.4, which is 317th in the nation. So they play fast. They get when you look at the numbers, they're all incredibly high. They seem very impressive. That's skewed because of the fast pace of play. They are a good team. They do everything well, but that's skewed. Assists per game, 16.6. That's 35th in the nation, first in the Mountain West. But again, that's bumped up because they score a lot more points. Rebounds per game, incredibly high. A lot of shots going up, a lot of opportunities to grab rebounds. While they average 41 rebounds per game, this tells you I think this is a telling stat about their pace of play. While they average 41 points per game, or rebounds per game, which is 55th in the nation, second in the Mountain West, they have a negative 1.5 rebound margin. So they rebound incredibly well when you look at it like that, until you realize that they're out-rebounded by nearly 2 per game. So it's just a fast-paced play. Utah State, on the other hand, a very, very slow pace of play team. 58.9 points per game for Utah State on average. And so it's going to be interesting to see how those styles collide and how they work on each other. New Mexico, though, they shoot the ball well, 42.8% from the field. They pass the ball really well. They shoot the 3 incredibly well. They're 12th in the nation in three-pointers per game with 9.5. They shoot 35.9% from behind the line. So don't take away from the fact that they're a good team. We'll go ahead and go through the lineups now as they are announcing them. You might be able to hear that in the background. But Utah State going to start today with number 1, Eliza West, the sophomore guard from Mount Martha, Australia. Number 5, Shannon Duffy, sophomore forward from Preston, Australia. Number 12, Haley Bassett, the sophomore forward from Layton, Utah. Number 21, Victoria Price, the sophomore guard from Grand Prairie, Texas. And number 22, Rachel Brewster, junior guard from Melbourne, Australia. I believe, and I'll double check, I'm pretty sure that is the exact same lineup they had against Fresno State here just a couple days ago. New Mexico, on the flip side, Cherise Bannon has started 118 games, every single game of her career, and she is going to start today, so no surprise there. Cherise Bannon, the senior guard from Las Vegas, Nevada. Taysha Buck, the senior guard from Red Wing, Minnesota. She's a transfer from Green Bay. Getting her first, this is her first season at New Mexico here in her senior year. India Fly, the freshman guard from Oregon City, Oregon. Alex Laparolari, the senior guard from Highland Village, Texas. And Jason Nunn, the junior center from Kirkland, Washington. So really no surprises there. Almost the exact lineup they've had this entire season. New Mexico wins the tip and right away sprint to the three-point line. Shoot from the left wing. 3 up, no good. Offensive rebound, though, put back up by Jason Nunn. And there's that quick pace of play. New Mexico not wasting any time getting on the board, and it's 2-0 Lobos. Utah State looking for their first points on the first offensive possession for the Aggies. Brewster here at the left elbow, passes it into Duffy, right block, puts it off the glass, and good. New Mexico, you might have heard me in the pregame interview say they don't do much that's not great. Defense might be one of those things. They're not the greatest defensive team. Here's Laparollery, passes over to the left wing, finds Fly. Fly travels, and that's a turnover for New Mexico. New Mexico typically a pretty good job at taking care of the ball. Only 12.3 turnovers per game, and they have a +4 turnover margin. So a good job taking care of the ball and forcing turnovers for the Lobos. But just like I say that, Utah State passes a errant pass into the paint. Didn't see who passed it, but it's stolen away by Bainan, who lays it up the other way but has too much on it. So Utah State coming back 2-2. Long pass from Eliza into the front court for Bassett, who puts it up with the right hook. Haley Bassett. Nice little move there in the paint. And it is up 4-2 for Utah State. 3 quickly the other way. Fly can't hit. Eliza grabs the rebound, and here we go. These fast pace of play games certainly keep the announcers on their toes. Makes it fun. Here's Eliza, works over to the right, off a screen from Bassett. Passes up top. Here's Brewster. Over to the left wing for Price. 12 on the shot clock. Price over to the right. Here's Eliza. 8 seconds. Duffy goes up towards the left block, puts up a lefty, too much. Offensive rebound, though. Bassett puts it back. Utah State out to a 6-2 lead here in the first quarter. Haley Bassett, great play there. Great play so far. Left wing 3 up. Taysha Buck knocks it down. I don't know if New Mexico's seen that shot clock go below 20. That might even be exaggerating it. They really just so fast. But Taysha Buck gets on the board, and it's 6-5 Utah State. Buck, a senior, again, transfer from Green Bay, back the other way, a lay-in from Shannon Duffy. We might see a very, very high score on this one. Neither team too interested in defense right at this moment. Bainan hands it off, passes over to Fly. Fly up to the left elbow, works her way into the paint, spins around. Liza hits the floor. Coach wanted an offensive foul, but he's not going to get it. Instead, points for New Mexico on that. India Fly, the freshman of the year preseason from Mountain West. Having a great season, 7.1 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 2.3 assists per game as just a freshman. May end up winning that thing postseason as well, though there's quite a few good freshmen here in the Mountain West. Here's Duffy on the right side, passes over to Brewster. Brewster jumper from 15, too much on it. Rebound by Bainan. Bainan comes flying back the other way. It's 3-on-1 Utah State. Price tries to steal it away and pokes it out of bounds. Good job by Price to slow it down. Though Utah State did have numbers, it's going to go out of bounds. Inbound coming from the baseline for the Lobos. Bainan to inbound. Deja Mason checks in for the Aggies, and out comes Bassett. No, I'm not entirely sure why they pulled Bassett that quick. 4 points on 2 of 2, but in goes Mason. Left corner, Fly has it, pump fakes, and drives in, passes it back out up top. Left wing, Buck dumps it in, into Nunn. Nunn shoots, and it's good over the fingertips of Deja Mason. And Jason Nunn now on the board for New Mexico. I'm sorry, she already had 1, so that's 4 now for Nunn. Left wing, Price has it. Price guarded tightly by Fly. Works over, up top. Tries to pass and stolen away. Bainan grabs it. Bainan driving 2-on-1 for Utah State, but Bainan still connects on the lay-in. Aggies sort of a poor job there defending when they had 2 players back, but that's why Cherise Bainan is your preseason Mountain West Player of the Year. Liza West drives up, gets to the right elbow, stops, passes back to Duffy up top. Back to Eliza. Resetting for Utah State, 14 on the shot clock. Eliza has a screen, use it from Duffy. Works over to the right, gets up to the block, puts up a lay-in underneath, no good. Offensive rebound though, Mason puts it back and can't get it to go. Utah State playing the rebound battle well. 4 rebounds for the Aggies, 3 for the Lobos. Shot from the left wing, no good from New Mexico. Another 3, another miss for the Lobos. Driving up, here's Brewster. Brewster lays it in, and Neither team having any problem putting the ball in the hoop right now. Aggies shooting 56%, Lobos shooting 56%, both teams 5 of 9. It is New Mexico 11, Utah State 10. Pass into Nunn, goes up, but 3 players in the paint guarding her, and that's what Coach Finkbeiner was talking about, trying to neutralize Nunn. They played perfect defense on her that time, and Utah State now has an opportunity to take the lead back. 5 minutes to go here in the first quarter. It's 11-10, New Mexico. Weird play there. Looks like Eliza passed it. It got tipped. She grabbed it off the tip and then traveled. Thought it might have been a double dribble, but they said it was tipped. Weird play nonetheless, but that's a turnover for Utah State. It will go back to the Lobos. And with a media timeout here at 4:57 to go in the first quarter, we're going to cut out to a quick break. New Mexico leads it 11-10 here in Albuquerque. All right, welcome on back to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Utah State taking on the New Mexico Lobos, and Lobo lead halfway through the first quarter. Aggies shooting 56%, New Mexico 50%, and Utah State leads the rebounding battle 6-3 early on, so good sign there for the Aggies. The big question coming into this was whether Utah State was going to be able to hang with this fast pace of play that New Mexico has. New Mexico, one of the fastest teams in the nation. Utah State, one of the slowest, but so far so good for the Aggies, playing some good basketball and hanging right in there, not seeming to have any problem keeping up on both sides of the ball. So, I mean, a lot of positives from the first 5 minutes of play, though. Utah State does trail by 1, and it's New Mexico as we come out of the timeout. It's New Mexico ball. They bring it across midcourt, and then Victoria Price reaches in, pokes the ball. Bannon keeps it, and then Price fouls her. So she had a good look at a steal and then fouls afterwards. So that's the first foul for Price. I think that's the first foul for either side. So back in, New Mexico has it. Pass over to the left wing. Driving up the baseline is Buck. She gets stuffed down low. I think that was Brewster, got her hand on it. It's going to go out of bounds. And back to Utah State. Great defensive play there for the Aggies. Olivia West set to check in for the Aggies. Making her first appearance of the night. Shannon Duffy checks out. A very clean game. That was indeed the first foul on either side that we saw Utah State pick up there just a moment ago. Victoria Price. So both teams taking care of the ball and doing a good job staying out of foul trouble. Up top, here's Bassett. Bassett passes over to Price, left wing. Price tries to pass it back up, almost poked away. Great defense by Laparollery. Good job by Bassett to hold on to it, though. Price works off a screen to the right, has to shoot. 5 seconds. Pass into Mason. Mason spinning around, puts up a wild shot to the left. I think she felt rushed. Not the shot Utah State wanted. Good defense by New Mexico there. Up top, 3 from Laparollery goes down. And New Mexico out to a 14-10 lead now after that. Laparollery gets her first bucket of the night. She's a dangerous three-point shooter. Gotta watch her. She is 3rd in the Mountain West in three-pointers per game with 2.5. Driving up, here's Price, lays it off the glass. Too much on it. Offensive board, though, by Mason, who goes back up. Too strong, and then another offensive board by Brewster, who's then blocked as she goes back up. So excellent defense down low for New Mexico, making it tough for the Aggies in the paint. Lobos lead 14-10, 3:30 to go here in the first quarter. Bannon has it, hands it back to Washington. Washington back up top to Laparollery, driving up, blocked by Deja Mason. That's the Mountain West leading blocker, and she comes up with another one there. Deja Mason with 34 blocks now on the season. Aggie ball. Here's Olivia West, just checked in. Olivia drives up, tries to put it off the glass, too much, and the rebound is poked back to Bainan. Bainan gets up, hands it off to Buck. Back to Bainan. Left side, tries to drive in, and then an offensive foul. Olivia West hit the floor. I say it every game, but Olivia West is so good at that. Draws the charge, and it's going to be a turnover for New Mexico and back to Utah State. Three turnovers apiece for either team. Aggies started out shooting hot, but that's now down to 36% on 5 of 14. I think they missed 3 shots on the last go-around. So looking to tighten that up. They're going to need to. Liza brings it across midcourt for Utah State. She's guarded tightly by Bainan. Hands it off to Brewster. Brewster on the left side. Works to the right, hands it back to Eliza. Eliza backs up, 15 on the shot clock. Uses a screen from Mason to get to the left. Tries to get into the paint. Passes it back up top to Bassett. Bassett drives right side this time, off the glass too much. And Utah State getting some good looks, just not getting them to fall. And just cold shooting right now for the Aggies. Long shot for New Mexico, goes up and in. And Coach Finkbeiner calls a timeout. He's had just about enough. That was Washington who hit from 3. Maddie Washington, the freshman, is a 33% three-point shooter and gets on the board there. And it's New Mexico 17, Utah State 10. Aggies missed all of their last 6 field goals while the Lobos are on a 6-0 run. So quick, just a 30-second timeout, but understandable for Coach Finkbeiner to want to get his team to regroup. They started out playing really well, and ever since that media timeout, not a single point for the Aggies. Well, New Mexico has really come out looking good right now. Aggies offensively sticking with about the same pace as we've seen them play with most of this year. Not really, I mean, still using a lot of the shot clock, not rushing things, but they really need to take advantage of a somewhat porous New Mexico defense, I think. I mean, they're just not getting shots. They're getting good looks, but just not connecting. So Aggie ball out of the timeout. Here's Deja Mason, the left elbow. Passes back up to Eliza, nearly stolen away. She passes over to Olivia on the right wing. Back up top to Eliza. Aggies need to tighten up the passing a little bit. Pass into Bassett, nearly poked away. Bassett tries to back in and double dribbles as she does so. Ref's going to see that every time, standing 2 feet away from her, so that's a turnover for the Aggies, 4th of the game. Lobo ball, Bainan brings it across midcourt and passes over to Buck. Buck over to the left wing. Here's Brian. Brian passes it back up top, then back into Brian, then down low. Nunn lays it into the right side, and New Mexico eating right now. That is a 8-0 run for the Lobos. Utah State, though, with possession. 1:37 to go here in the quarter. Liza works to the right, passes it up to Brewster. Brewster over to Bassett, then over to Olivia. 14 on the shot clock. Olivia, nice dish into Bassett, who just can't get it to go. Rebound, though, grabbed by New Mexico and then goes out of bounds, so it will stay Utah State's way, but that was the perfect look. I mean, you couldn't ask for a much better pass from Olivia into Haley Bassett, and that's just kind of how things have been going right now for the Aggies. Inbound quickly to Bassett, who shoots from 15, makes up for it as she knocks that one down and breaks the scoring streak for New Mexico, and is now 19-12. Utah State would be feeling much better about themselves if they can get a few more here before the end of the quarter, and if they can stop New Mexico a couple of times. Here's Bainan on the left wing, 3, no good, and Bassett with the rebound. Bassett hands over to Eliza, brings it across midcourt. Under a minute to go, it's 56 seconds here in the first quarter. Brewster over to the right wing, looking for an outlet, gets it up to Eliza. 12 seconds on the shot clock. Eliza works to the left, gets into the paint, puts it up lefty off the glass, rolls around and in, and Utah State with a 4-0 run of their own. Good response for the Aggies out of that timeout. 33 seconds to go. New Mexico needs to inbound. I think that that might have been 5 seconds there on the inbound, but no call. New Mexico brings it across. I think what they were doing there is trying to use as much of the clock as possible so they could have the last shot here, because the clock does not stop in the first quarter after a shot. So essentially now we have an even shot and game clock, and New Mexico can have the last shot if they so choose. Left wing, Buck puts up a 3 and knocks it down. Utah State has a shot here if they want it, but it'd take forever to get it inbounds, and that's going to create a really long full court heave, which won't even count if it goes. So A little bit of poor execution by Utah State there at the end of the quarter, and they're going to head into the first quarter break, trailing by 8 after playing some solid basketball for about 7 minutes. Just fell asleep at the end. So Utah State in that first quarter, shooting dropped down to 39% while they allowed 56 for New Mexico. Lobos hit 4 of 8 from downtown, which is really the biggest difference maker, though the Aggies did out-rebound them 11-7. 4 turnovers for the Aggies, 3 for the Lobos, and the leading scorer for Utah State through 1 is Haley Bassett with 6 points and a couple of rebounds. We'll come back in just a moment with the second quarter of action here from Dreamstyle Arena in Albuquerque, New Mexico. All right, welcome on back. 1 quarter down, 3 to go here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Utah State taking on the New Mexico Lobos. And after a pretty solid start, Utah State fell asleep for a few minutes and let New Mexico pull out to a little bit of a lead. And so after 1 quarter, it is New Mexico 22, Utah State 14. Aggies do have the ball to start out the quarter here. And right away, they inbound to Eliza, who drives and kicks it back out to Olivia. Olivia up to the three-point line. Then back out over to the left for Price. Price back over to Eliza. Gets up to the three-point line. 13 on the shot clock. She's going to drive to the left. Nice move, but can't get the lay-in. Had a nice look at it, and just too much on it. That is going to be the 5th or 6th, maybe even more layups missed for Utah State. And then back the other way. A quick 3 goes right down the hatch for Alex Laparolari. And that's what New Mexico does to you. Quick 3s, and they are very good at it. Utah State, one of the worst three-point defenses in the entire nation, and New Mexico taking advantage of that, no question. Price on the right wing, drives up, gets to the baseline, tries to pass it over to Bassett. Bassett couldn't handle it, a lot of heat on the pass, and it goes back to New Mexico. Another turnover for Utah State. Things not looking good right now for the Aggies, playing some ugly basketball. Here's Fly. Fly, the preseason freshman of the year for the Mountain West, guarded by Eliza. The reigning freshman of the year for the Mountain West. Passes it up. Washington pushes off a little bit. No call. Steps back. Passes over to Laparolari over to the right wing. 3 up. No good from Washington. And the rebound by Eliza West. Brings it across midcourt. Slows down. Utah State from 3. Their three-point defense, they allow 33.6%, which is 200. I'm sorry, that's New Mexico, so they don't have a great three-point defense either, as Utah State misses a shot at the bucket. But Utah State's three-point defense is 345th in the nation out of 349 teams. Shot from the left wing for Fly won't go, and then a jump ball called on the rebound will stay New Mexico's way. But the Aggies from 3 allow 36.8% in New Mexico right now, shooting 45 from 3. So inbound coming for New Mexico from the baseline after the tie up under the basket into Laparolari. She hands it back to Brian. Brian drives, is fouled on the way to the bucket, and we're going to have our first foul shots of the game coming up. Looked like it was going to fall. It sat on the rim for a few seconds. But it's going to be a couple shots coming for Linnea Bryan. Foul goes against Rachel Brewster, who has her first. Bryan, a senior from El Paso, Texas, knocks down the first one. She's an 80% free throw shooter. She's a great contributor for this New Mexico team. She's come off the bench in the majority of her games throughout her 4-year career, but always provided a good spark for the Lobos. Knocks down the second as well, and now New Mexico leads 27-14. It's starting to look a little bit one-sided here. Utah State needs some offensive production. Liza travels. That's not how you do it. You're looking for offensive production. Looked like she was faking a pass and then just took an extra step. So that's turnover number 6 for Utah State. Back to New Mexico. Baden has it. Baden guarded by Brewster now. Works over towards the right. Pass inside, just over the fingertips of Eliza. Don't know how she found Jason Nunn down low, but Nunn lays it in. And New Mexico just tearing it up in the paint right now. 10 points in the paint for New Mexico, though. Utah State actually winning that with 12 of their own. New Mexico, though, taking advantage on the fast break. 14 fast break points to Utah State's 4. Utah State calls a timeout. Coach Finkbeiner wants to regroup, talk it over with his team. The fall apart for Utah State, really a little bit unexplainable here the last few minutes. They're missing open shots. They're not completing passes that are very easy passes. They're just not, careless turnovers, unforced errors really all the way around. And it's been New Mexico just taking advantage of every opportunity. Like I said, 14 fast break points. That's a team that is taking advantage of every opportunity they're given. New Mexico's leading scorer so far, Jason Nunn, with 8 points and 3 rebounds. She is you heard Coach Finkbeiner talk about her before the game. She is an absolute menace. Averages a double-double of 15 points per game. That's 7th in the Mountain West, and 10.1 rebounds per game. That's number 1 in the conference. Along with that, she's had 2 30-plus point games this season and 11 double-doubles. And she's coming off a 13.12 rebound night. So it's going to be interesting if Utah State can start to crack down a little bit on her in the paint. Don't know if it's going to happen, but they've done a good job containing Sharice Bainin. Only 2 points so far for her, though 5 assists, just a ridiculous number through less than a quarter and a half. I don't know if I've ever seen that. 5 assists through just this amount of playing time. So she's been a facilitator, though not taking as many shots. Coming out of the timeout, about to get back underway. It's 7:37 to go here in the first. Lobos leading 29-14. And Utah State has yet to score this quarter. It's 7-0 for the Lobos in this one. Utah State ball out of the timeout. Olivia at point guard right now. Passes over to Harris. Harris with her first action of the game. Hands it back to Olivia. Long pass over to Harris, who lays it in. Beautiful pass by Olivia West. She's made a couple of dimes tonight. And Emmy Harris checks in, gets her first points 10 seconds later. Then back the other way, a quick 3. Laparori knocks it down. Utah State not even contesting these threes, just letting them have it. And that's a mistake when you're playing one of the best three-point shooting teams in the nation. Laparori now 3 for 4 from downtown for 9 points. She leads the way for the Lobos. West on the right wing. Passes it up to Brewster. Brewster over to the left wing for Emmy Harris. Harris drives up, gets towards the baseline, pass to Mason, then over to the right wing for Brewster. Shoots from just inside the free throw line and knocks it down. Utah State finally getting a little bit of offensive production, and it's 32-18 Lobos. Back the other way. Fly pump fakes, passes it over. Instead, a lay-in by New Mexico. Coach Finkbeiner quite unhappy right now. And so another timeout. Bainin can't be stopped right now. Bainin just doing everything for the Lobos. And we're going to cut out to a quick commercial break as the teams huddle up. Be back in just a moment with the rest of the second quarter. All right, back out of the timeout. Utah State trailing 34-18 to the Lobos. Aggies being outscored 12-4 this quarter here in the second. And it's Aggie ball as we start out of the timeout. Olivia West at point guard, passes over to Harris, then back to Olivia. Olivia cross-court pass to Emmy Harris, who just can't contain it. It goes out of bounds. Was a pretty good pass. I think just hit her in the wrong part of the fingers or something. And just another careless, another unforced error by Utah State. And those things have just piled up for Utah State. They, I mean, turnover after turnover and missed open shot after missed open shots. Back to New Mexico we go. 7 turnovers for the Aggies. Brewster picks up a foul. She jumps in trying to break up a pass to Bainan. So she got a piece of Bainan, picks up her second foul. New Mexico inbounds from their own back court. Utah State has 2 fouls this quarter. New Mexico has 1 foul this entire game. Left wing, 3 up. Tasha Buck knocks it down. Another uncontested 3, and what do you know? Another one that goes in for New Mexico. Tasha Buck, one of the best 3-point shooters in the nation, and she was left open there for that one. Olivia West passes over, finds Emmy Harris, back to Olivia. 15 on the shot clock. Up top to Mason. Mason hands it back to Harris. Harris over the left wing for Duffsey, who's going to drive, get up to the block, stop and shoot. No good, and the rebound fought for. Brewster tried to reach in and steal it away from Nunn, but Nunn, a strong post player, comes down with it. And back to New Mexico. The possession goes. Bassett set to check in just a moment. Surprised she hasn't seen a little bit more time tonight. Here's Bainan. Pass inside to Nunn, who's stuffed again. Deja Mason with another block down low. Adds to her season total, and back the other way, flying back. Olivia decides to stop, pass out, left wing 3, no good from Duffsey. Offensive board, though, by Deja Mason. Then a 3 up top, no good from Olivia West, and this time the rebound for New Mexico. Another open look, and just another miss from Utah State. It's one of those nights. Laparoli passes it in. Lay-in on the reverse from Bainan, misses. Bainan with 4 points, now 2 of 5 from the field for the Mountain West leading scorer, and Utah State with the rebound. Duffsey on the left wing has it. She's guarded now by Buck. Passes it off to Brewster. Brewster up on the baseline, shoots from just inside the 3-point line, no good. And the rebound, looks like Deja Mason got it, tipped it off of New Mexico, and so it stays Utah State's way. Good heads-up play there by Deja Mason. So coming out, Emmy Harris, Deja Mason, and Rachel Brewster on the court for Utah State. Got Duffsey Price, Olivia West, Bassett, and Eliza West. Aggies inbound from the baseline, fresh shot clock. Eliza has it. Point guard right now, works to the left. Taking their time, pass into Bassett, down low. Bassett tries to put it up from the other side, doesn't even hit a thing. And the rebound by New Mexico. Nunn adds to her total. She's got another now 5 for Nunn with 8 points. Well on her way to adding to another double-double this season. And then a good job by Victoria Price to force a turnover on New Mexico. She reached in, poked it from Fly, who was dribbling, and out of bounds off of Fly's foot. So it's going to go Utah State. Utah State's way. Aggies have it with 3:40 to go here in the second quarter. Eliza works off a screen from Bassett, gets into the paint, pass over to the left corner for Olivia, who pump fakes and drives. Tries to pass down low, goes out of bounds. I think that's going to stay Utah State's way again. Crowd disagrees, but the official was right there. So got pushed off of a Lobo player. Utah State inbounds. Olivia West on the left wing. Passes up top to Price. Price over to the right wing for Olivia, or to Eliza. Eliza drives. Has it deflected. I think that was off New Mexico again. So we'll stay Utah State's way, but only 2 seconds on the shot clock. Aggies to inbound from just about half court over on the hash, but they're going to have to put up a quick one here. Pass into Olivia. Olivia shoots. I don't think she even got it off, but it doesn't hit anything. Yeah, they're going to call the 30-second violation. No shot credited. And back to New Mexico. So with 5 minutes in at our first media timeout, with 5 minutes, Utah State had 10 points. In the ensuing 12-minute sense, a total of 8. Aggies have really slowed down after a hot shooting start. Now just 9 of 27 from the field. Pass by New Mexico goes out of bounds. They're going to say Duffsey got a piece of it, so it stays Lobo ball. Buck inbounds down low to Nunn. Nunn got free off of Bassett, then lays it in. She is feasting down low. and nobody can stop her right now. Nunn with 10 points, 5 rebounds. Liza has it, works to the left, guarded by Bainan. Hands it back to Price. Price up to the free throw line, then pass out right for Duffy. Duffy tries to pass it down low. Went out of bounds. I think that is going to stay Utah State's way again. No, they change it. Not sure. The official seems to be just as confused as everyone else is. There was a pass, went out of bounds off the baseline. It's just a matter of who touched it last.
Never touched anybody, ref.
From this viewpoint, it might have made its way clean through. I really just truly don't know. But we're going to take a look. Looks like there's something on the floor. I don't know if it's an earring or what, but a piece of jewelry picked up and taken off. Or maybe, oh, I think it's a contact. Yeah, it looks like Jason Nunn lost her contact, so over putting that back in as we have a pause of play. It will be Utah State ball as we come out back into play as the Aggies will have a baseline inbound with 11 seconds on the shot clock. So the contact is back in. The crowd rejoices. And back into play we go. Olivia gets it in, finds Price on the right wing. Back over to Olivia. Right corner three up. No good. Way long. Air ball. And the rebound by Tasha Buck. Utah State 0 of 3 from the three-point line tonight. Right wing, Fly tries to dribble it in, has it deflected off a foot. Stays New Mexico's way, though, as Buck picked it back up. Buck on the right corner, three up. No good, uncontested, but Utah State can't grab the rebound. Another three, left wing up. No good. And Utah State catches a couple of breaks there, as those were both just open threes. So Utah State with the rebound. I think that was Franson that came down with it. Yeah, Taylor Franson, the freshman, checks in. Gets a rebound right away, and then laying it in, Victoria Price gets stuffed down low by Nunn. Back the other way, another quick three, uncontested, up and good. Maddie Washington. I feel like a broken record here, it's just uncanny. New Mexico has taken 16 three-pointers, made 8 of them, and I don't know if any of them have been tightly contested by Utah State. Liza up top, passes over to Price. Price gets up to the three-point line, then passes over to Olivia. 1:26 to go here in the quarter. It's 42-18 New Mexico. Top Eliza gets up to the free throw line, works right then left, kicks it over to the left for Duffy. Hands it back. Eliza has to shoot. 1 second. She doesn't see it. That's a shot clock violation. Yet another careless turnover by Utah State. And just absolute frustration by this Aggie team. Utah State hasn't scored a single point in 5.5 minutes, while New Mexico is on a 10-0 run. Aggies have missed all of their last 7 shots. Ice cold right now for Utah State against not the greatest defense in the world. Pass from Buck had Bainan inside, but overthrew her, got it over her fingertips, so that goes out of bounds. And it's going to go back to Utah State. 1 minute exactly to go here in this quarter till halftime, and Utah State has possession. Jessie Gear in for her first time of the night now. Liza calls for a screen from Franson, uses it to get over to the left, then works back to the right. Steps back. Liza wheeling and dealing, found an open Franson down low, but the pass was a little low, and Franson, I don't think she was even expecting it, couldn't handle it, so that's another turnover by Utah State. Their 10th of the half. New Mexico has it. They got about 12 seconds between shot and game clock. 34 seconds to go here in this one. Here's Bainan working over to the right, kicks it over. 3 up, no good from Buck. Open, and then an offensive rebound by Nunn. So New Mexico now will have the final shot of the half. Up top, here's Bainan. 14 on the clock, and then fouled by Price. Price stepped up, reaching in for the steal. So the whistle blows. Not the worst foul. I mean, they're not in foul trouble, and so it basically just makes New Mexico inbound from near half court. So honestly, probably a pretty good foul there. So they inbound to the backcourt for Bainan. Bainan guarded, finally brings it across. Gets up towards the right elbow. Passes over, left corner. Buck puts up an open 3 and somehow misses. Puts it long, and that's going to go out of bounds. Horn sounds though, that's the end of the half. Utah State ends the half without scoring for 6 minutes and 44 seconds. They have not scored since just over 3 minutes in the second quarter. I mentioned this just a few minutes ago, but at the 5-minute mark, halfway through the first quarter, Utah State had 10 points. In the 15 minutes since, 8 points. A total of 8 points in 15 minutes for Utah State. And just absolutely ice cold during that run. New Mexico ends it on a 13-2 run. And that's how we're going to head into the halftime break. Aggie shot 31%. Lobos shot 52%. Utah State 0 of 3 from the three-point line, while New Mexico 8 of 18. Utah State with 10 turnovers to New Mexico's 5. Aggies actually playing well in the rebounding game, relatively so. 18 rebounds to New Mexico's 17. And fast break points. This is, I don't know if I've ever seen a number like this. 22 fast break points at halftime for New Mexico to Utah State's 4. 22 fast break points at halftime. Leading scores for Utah State, Haley Bassett has 6 points, all of those coming in, I think, the first 5 minutes of the game. She still leads the way with 6 points, though, and 2 rebounds. Duffusy and Brewster each have 4 as well. No player with more than 2 rebounds other than Deja Mason, who has 6. New Mexico, none with 10 points, 7 rebounds, so well on her way. She averages a double-double and already has 11 this season, so well on her way to another. Laparolari and Buck each with 9, so you got 3 players essentially with close to double digits here at halftime. And then Bainan, who is the Mountain West leading scorer, averages 17.5 per game, only has 4 at halftime, but 6 assists, so still making things happen for the Lobos. Thanks for tuning in to Utah State Women's Hoops here on Aggie Radio, AggieRadio.com. We're going to cut out for a halftime break and come back with our second half. Here, we'll be back in about 8.5 minutes, 9 minutes or so, with the second half of action here on Aggie Radio. All right, welcome on back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Utah State is taking on the New Mexico Lobos, and not the result they're looking for here at halftime. Utah State trails 42-18. You expected the New Mexico would come out, they'd shoot the lights out, they'd play quickly, they'd launch up quick threes, they wouldn't turn the ball over much, but I think most Utah State fans are a little bit disheartened by Utah State's inability to keep up. Started out really well. The first 10 minutes the first 5 minutes, the first half, the first quarter looked like it was going to be a game. It was back and forth. Utah State was keeping up very nicely, getting quick points back the other way. Aggies had 10 points in 5 minutes, and in the ensuing 15 minutes, a total of 8. They went on just a nasty scoring drought into halftime. Didn't score for about 7.5 minutes of the second quarter before the halftime started. So if you're Utah State, I just don't even know where to start with the halftime adjustments. The only thing they're doing particularly well is rebounding the ball, but I read this off earlier, 22 fast break points for the Lobos to 4 for Utah State. And Utah State, 10 turnovers. Turnovers lead to fast break points. New Mexico taking advantage of every opportunity they're given. And that's why the score looks so lopsided and ugly. Now, let me remind you, I'm really impressed by this New Mexico team and what they've been able to do this season. Head coach Mike Bradbury comes in. It's his second year. Last year, they went 15-15. They were 10-8 in the Mountain West. They finished 5th in the Mountain West. And then they lost 4 players. They lost, 4 starters, I should say. They lost 7 players overall, 4 starters. Though the star, Shreese Bainin, who is, and I've mentioned it a million times, the preseason Mountain West Player of the Year, those she does come back. They lost 4 starters, and yet they replaced those with Taysha Buck, the Mountain West preseason Newcomer of the Year, India Fly, the Mountain West preseason Freshman of the Year, Alex Laparollery, who's just been fantastic, and she's torching Utah State right now from deep, and Jason Nunn, who very well has a case at first team All Mountain West when the season comes to an end, and I think that she's basically a lock for that. So they replaced those players. They did really well. They're picked 3rd in the Mountain West this season. After losing 4 starters, I don't know how you move up 2 spots. It's unbelievable, but they've got the talent. And they've come out, start the season 11-0. Best start in school history. And yeah, they're in a slump right now. They've only won 1 of their last 6. Mountain West play hasn't treated them super well. The road hasn't treated them super well. But this is a team, I think, if I'm picking the Mountain West Conference champion this year, I think it's down to New Mexico, Boise, or Wyoming. Any of those teams, I'd give just about an even chance. And right now, maybe even leaning towards New Mexico. So we're back in after halftime. Utah State to start out this half with possession. Brewster has it now. She passes over to the right wing for Eliza. Eliza works off a screen from Bassett. Up to the free throw line. Passes over. Bassett down low and can't control the pass. Goes out of bounds. Saw that more times than we can count in the first quarter. Or in the first half, and just another careless turnover by Utah State. It's not even sloppy passes. It's just players not holding on to them, players not taking care of the ball. So back to New Mexico it is. Here's Laparollery, passes it back over to Fly. Fly driving in, off the glass, is fouled. So she will head to the free throw line. Missed the shot, but a couple shots coming for New Mexico. Only 2 free throws the entire first half for either side. New Mexico went 2 for 2 on their first trip to the line. Utah State has yet to shoot a single free throw in this game. India Fly at the free throw line now. Puts up the first, and it's good. Fly, I mentioned it just a moment ago. She was the Mountain West preseason Freshman of the Year. She's got 1 more coming. 55% free throw shooter, so she has struggled from there, but not a problem right now. She knocks down the second, and the Lobos are 4 for 4 from the line. And now up 44-18. Aggies still looking for their first points of the quarter. jumper from Victoria Price, no good, but offensive board by Brewster, who passes it back out to reset it. Good effort there by Brewster, who now has it on the left wing. Gets a screen from Bassett, steps inside the three-point line, shoots, no good, and tipped out of bounds. That's going to go back to the Lobos. Bassett did a good job reaching over, tips it out, and it's going to go off of her. So Coach Stringbutter calls a timeout. His squad 1 minute in to this half being outscored 2-0. So he's going to talk it over with his team. Utah State's leading scorer, I said it just before halftime, but Haley Bassett was 6. Duffesey and Brewster have 4. While for New Mexico, you've got every player that has played, which is a total of 7, have each scored. And you've got none with 10, and Buck and Laparollery each with 9. So 3 players for New Mexico have outscored any player for Utah State. And then Washington, who's 4th on the team, is tied with Utah State's leading scorer. So not entirely sure why such a quick timeout. I mean, I'm sure that Coach Finkbeiner not happy with the effort that he's seen so far this half, as it has been very similar to the first half. But maybe just trying to remind them of what was said in the locker room at halftime and try and give them a little bit of a spark, wake them up. Utah State, interestingly enough, has just been dreadful in night games this season. Every single one of Utah State's wins has come during the day. I don't know if there's any real correlation there, more of just an interesting tidbit than anything. But Aggies are 0-12 in night games. Team's just getting ready to come back out. Cheer squad needs to clear the floor so we can get back underway. My apologies. I said 0-12, but 0-11 in night games, while 5-5 in day games. So just a weird tidbit there. Back in, and it's New Mexico ball coming out of the timeout. Pass over to the right wing for Buck. Buck passes over to left wing for Fly. Fly back up top to Benyon. Benyon over to Buck, then back up. New Mexico passing the ball well. Laparollery pump fakes and passes it over. This is the most shot clock we've seen New Mexico use in forever. And then a dump inside to Nunn, who lays it off the glass. Jason Nunn. 12 points, 7 rebounds for the junior. Price works off a screen, passes over to Duffesey. Duffesey back up top to Eliza. We got 15 on the shot clock. Eliza guarded by Bannon, works off a screen, gets into the paint, passes back out, right wing, 3 up. Duffesey knocks it down and breaks the scoring drought that lasted nearly 10 minutes going into the second quarter. And Shannon Duffesey now leads the way for Utah State with 7 points. That is the first three-pointer, where Utah State now 1 of 4 from the three-point line. Aggies finally break the 20-point mark. Over left wing, 3 up for Buck, though. Answers with one of her own. And New Mexico jumps out. Now the lead 49-21. Lobos shooting 9 of 19 for 47% from the three-point line. Brewster passes into Eliza. Nice cutting pass. Eliza gets into the paint, dribbles around, tries to pass it out, and it's whistle blows. Went back to New Mexico. I think they're going to call a foul on Fly, India Fly. No, they're going to say that's on Utah State. They're going to say it's on Haley Bassett. Players were kind of fighting for it, as it was a weird pass, kind of out in front of Bassett, so they fought for it, and they're going to say Bassett picks it up. New Mexico still has just committed 1 foul this entire game. Utah State, though, I mean, only 6 of their own, so clean on both sides. Right corner 3 up, and Laparollery can't hit this time. Duffesey with a strong rebound. Laparollery now 3 of 5 after missing that one from 3. Left wing, Brewster passes over to the right wing for Eliza. Guarded by Bannon. Screen from Bassett, gets up to the free throw line, then steps back. Over to the right wing for Duffy. Beautiful pass from Shannon Duffy into Haley Bassett, who lays it in. And Utah State finally getting a little bit of offense clicking. Bassett now with 8 points. And then gets a swat on the other side as Fly goes driving in. Bassett with the block. Utah State has a fast break. 3 up, left wing, no good from Duffy. Brewster fights for the board. It's going to stay with New Mexico, though, as they had a few more players down there than Utah State. Lobos take back over. 6:11 to go here in the second. Strong pass down low, but too much on it for Nunn to contain, so Nunn tips it out. It's a turnover for New Mexico. A rare one, just their 6th of the night. Aggies with 12. Jason Nunn checks out for the time being for New Mexico. Nunn, who has 12 points and 7 rebounds, going to get a little bit of a rest. Duffy passes into Bassett. Duffy's starting to facilitate. Got a nice pass down low, and that is just the 2nd team foul for New Mexico as Bassett's going to head to the free throw line. The first time the Utah State has shot free throws so far. Foul goes against Buck. Bassett's first shot is good. Haley Bassett, 58% free throw shooter this season. Down quite a ways from last season from the free throw line, but starting to gain her composure again from the stripe. Second shot, good as well, so 2 for 2. And Utah State now with 25 points to New Mexico's 49. Up on the right side goes Bannon, who kicks it back. Washington lays it up, left side, no good, but grabs her own board. No Utah State player there to rebound it, and so New Mexico going to get another opportunity here. Bannon steps back towards the half-court line, guarded by Eliza. Gets up to the left elbow, then tries to pass, and that's a sloppy pass out of bounds for New Mexico. One of the few turnovers again, but New Mexico starting to loosen up a little bit, not playing nearly as tight, not nearly as strict as we saw in the first half. Eliza passes up to Duffy. Duffy up top, pass it back to Eliza. Eliza goes left, pump fakes, over to Brewster, then tipped back out by New Mexico. Almost stolen away, players fighting for it. Bunch of players on the floor, and that's going to be a jump ball, which will go New Mexico's way. So not a turnover, but essentially the same thing. As that, I mean, that really had no business going to a jump ball. Utah State should have been able to contain it, but back to New Mexico we go. Right corner 3, up quickly. Maddie Washington knocks it down, still had 25 on the shot clock. New Mexico chucked it across midcourt, and Washington hits a corner 3. Here's Jensen, steps up, then stops, pass it back out up to Eliza. New Mexico doing a really good job. As fast as they are on offense, they're quick to get back on defense. A lot of times when you have such a fast pace, it can turn into a shooting match going left and right, but New Mexico doing a good job of stopping Utah State the other way. Eliza goes to lay it in and gets one off the glass. Spun around the rim for a second, then fell. Back the other way. Thought about a 3 from Fly. Instead, she passes it back out up top. Buck over to Laparolari, who drives and lays it off the glass on the left side. New Mexico now with 54 points. Laparolari has 11 of those. 3 players in double figures for New Mexico. Washington just 1 away from double figures. Pass by Utah State, sloppy inside, stolen away. Fly has it, over to the right corner, 3 up. Washington uncontested and knocks it down. 11 of 22 from downtown are the Lobos. Pass into Bassett. Nice look there. Shannon Duffy starting to facilitate. She's seeing some nice passes this half. And Bassett gets a lay-in for Utah State. Aggies with 29 now. 3:33 to go. Whistle blows as New Mexico brings it across midcourt. And it's going to be a timeout. So team's going to head to the huddle. We'll cut out for a break as well. But New Mexico has 4 players in double figures and leads Utah State 57-29 here with 3:33 to go in the third quarter here in Albuquerque. We'll be back in just a moment with the rest of the third. Good news for Utah State is they've scored 11 points this quarter, which is more than they scored in 15 minutes of the first half. The bad news is they trail 57-29 as Washington misses a 3 from the corner for New Mexico. Utah State with the rebound, bring it across midcourt. Aggies offense finally starting to wake up, but may just be too big of a deficit. Nice pass inside. Bassett gets the lay-in. I think that was Duffy with yet another nice. Yeah, Duffy with her third assist, probably her fifth or sixth that should have been. And Utah State now has 31 points. Washington travels for New Mexico, so that's a turnover for the Lobos. They are really starting to loosen up a little bit. They did a good job taking care of the ball in the first half, but now with 4 turnovers here in the second, matches their first half total of turnovers, and Utah State needs to take advantage of that. Liza brings it across. Over to the left wing, here's Olivia, hands it back to Liza. Up to Duffy, who hands it back. 12 on the shot clock. Liza drives into the paint, beautiful pass down low to Bassett, who lays it up but can't get it to go. Had the look, just put too much of it off the glass, and I couldn't even count the number of missed layups for Utah State tonight that should have gone. Washington drives from the right wing, then what a pass as Washington swings it over to Nunn, who lays it up. Jason Nunn now with 14 points, leading the way for New Mexico. 14 points, 8 rebounds for the center. Driving in is Duffy, who puts it up, gets the and one. Shannon Duffy playing some good basketball this half. One of the few Aggies that you could say that about, but she gets a couple of points and a shot to come. Foul going to go. I did not see. I think that was Nunn they signaled that against. So one shot coming. Can't get it to go, though, on the free throw. And the rebound by Laparolari. 1:54 to go. Utah State trailing 59-33. Right wing fly has it. Livia's knocked down in the post, and that's going to be a foul on Jason Nunn. I think Olivia was working around a screen. Nunn moved her feet, so offensive foul and a turnover for New Mexico there. They've been a very, very disciplined group this entire game up until the last 5 or so minutes. Liza passes over to Olivia, passes over to Duffy on the baseline, over to the right wing, 3 up, Jensen short. Had a really good look at it, and the rebound fought for but out of bounds off of the Aggies. Aggies have made 4 of their last 5 field goals. The downside, though, is so is New Mexico. So good to see them get a little bit of offense rolling here. but just unable to stop this explosive New Mexico attack. Foul called on Olivia West. There was a little bit of contact as New Mexico brought it across midcourt. I don't know enough to call a foul in what has really been a clean game, but they do blow the whistle. Stays New Mexico way. 1:18 to go here in the third. Fly passes over, tries to get it inside to Nunn. There's a fight for it. Nunn hit the floor, got control, but then moved on the floor, so that's a travel. Can't do that, and a turnover for New Mexico. Lies it across midcourt, tries to pass it in, and a pass to Duffy intercepted. Bryan gonna take it back, stop at the elbow, and reset it for New Mexico. Another turnover for the Aggies, 15th of the game. Laparollery gets inside, then passes it out. Fly over to the left corner, then driving in. Charge called on Linnea Bryan. Good job once again. You guessed it, Olivia West hits the floor and draws the charge. Crowd hates it. I've mentioned earlier, I just think it's so impressive, the support that this New Mexico team gets. They are 17th in the nation, 15th in the nation in attendance. They average over 5,000 people here in this arena per game, and I gotta say they have that tonight. Duffy passes over left corner for Jensen, who fumbles but grabs it, drives in, puts up a nice shot. Lindsey Jensen making things happen, and Utah State now trailing 59-35. Lindsey Jensen with her first bucket of the game, now 1 of 2 in 7 minutes of play. Fly working against Price. Goes right, then left, then back over to the right wing. Pass over to Bryan. Bryan over to the left wing. 3 up. Rolls in and out. Washington can't get it to fall. Had the uncontested look. Shoots, and then the buzzer sounds, so that's how the third quarter will end. Much better showing for Utah State in the third quarter. By far the best basketball they've played tonight, as it was an even 17-17 split in the third. Utah State, though, after a 20-4 second quarter with way too much ground to make up. I mean, they're trailing by 24 points heading into the fourth. And I know miracles have happened, but it's going to take more than that for Utah State to come out with one tonight, though. If you're Utah State, you just want to see a good effort going into the fourth. And, you know, if you can end on a positive note, that means a lot going forward for this team, who's finally going to get some home games and finally get some rest after this one. We'll cut out for a fourth quarter break, but Utah State trails New Mexico here in Albuquerque 59-35 after 3 quarters. Welcome on back. 3 quarters down, 1 quarter to go here in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Dreamstyle Arena. Utah State trailing the Lobos 59-35 after 3. Aggie ball to start out the fourth. Olivia West at point guard, passes over to Mason up top. Back over to Olivia on the left wing. Gets into the paint, laying off the glass. Nice look there for Olivia West. Highly contested, but put it up high off the glass and gets the first points of the quarter for Utah State. Bainan for New Mexico, passes over to the right wing, gets it to Bryan. Then back up, here's Washington. Back over to Bryan, then over to Buck. Buck dumps it down low to Nunn, who's blocked on the way up. Deja Mason with another block. They're going to call a hold ball, so no shot actually credited. So that won't be technically a block. A hold ball, I guess. Not entirely sure how that happened, but it's going to stay New Mexico away as they had the arrow pointing to them. Bainan goes up, has it deflected on the shot out of bounds. Again, off of Utah State, though. So Lobos the inbound from the baseline with 5 seconds on the shot clock. Bainan the inbounder, looking around. Passes over to left for Buck, hands it back to Bainan. Bainan shoots and is stuffed by Shannon Duffy from the three-point line, but then Utah State can't wrangle it in. Goes back to New Mexico and then back across the midcourt line. So the whistle blew. I think that the official was thinking it's a backcourt violation. Now they're talking it over of whether she had possession enough to call it a backcourt violation or if it was Utah State's possession. The officials look quite confused. I'll hold it up, but we'll see what the official call is coming out of this. Either way, an excellent defensive play there by Utah State. It's going to go back to New Mexico, and Coach Jerry Finkbeiner wants an explanation. I believe what they're saying is that it went into the backcourt with Utah State touching it last. So instead of a backcourt violation, it just stays New Mexico's way because they have it now with 28 on the shot clock. So basically an errant whistle is what that all comes down to. New Mexico inbounds, and they've got basically a fresh shot clock. Not that they ever use most of it anyway. Right corner three, as I say that, up, no good from Washington, who couldn't miss earlier, but finally has gotten a little bit cold, much to Utah State's relief. Jensen goes up the other way and is blocked, but then grabs her own board and puts it back up and is fouled the second time. So Lindsey Jensen, who has actually she's had a lot of good hustle tonight, playing some good ball in just the 8 minutes she's been on the court. She's going to get a couple of free throws. Jensen's first is good. The sophomore from Smithfield, Utah, Cache Valley native, is just shooting 6 of 12. Make that, though, after that one, 7 of 13 on the season from the free throw line with one more coming. Second one good as well. Beautiful. Nothing but net. Utah State trails 59-39, 20-point game. And Utah State outscoring the Lobos 4-0 in this quarter. And then an offensive foul called on New Mexico's Jason Nunn. Nunn called on the illegal screen, so a turnover for New Mexico essentially, and back to Utah State. Price at point guard. Passes up to Duffy. Duffy on the right elbow. Gets over to the free throw line, then over to the left side, puts up with the lefty, and no good. Probably not the shot Utah State wanted there. Rebound by New Mexico, long pass into the front court. Up to Nunn, who lays it in, no good. Grabs her own board and then tries to go up again and is blocked by Mason, though it will stay New Mexico's way for a third opportunity here on this one. So Nunn with those rebounds, that gives her 14 points and 9 rebounds. One away from a double-double. Right corner three up, it rolls in and out. Bainan can't hit. Bainan shockingly only 4 points. She's the Mountain West leading scorer. She's 2 of 6 from the field. And a 17.5 point per game player with only 4, though New Mexico making do without. Driving up, Olivia West gets fouled on the baseline. No, they're going to say, I'm sorry, offensive foul charge on Olivia West. So New Mexico got their feet planted down low. And so that will be another Utah State turnover, 16 now for the Aggies. Though they forced 12, so not entirely one-sided there. Up top, here's Buck. Buck gets up, is fouled on the way towards the basket, no shot. That's going to go against Victoria Price, who I believe that's her third. Yep, third foul for Price. So inbound coming from the baseline for the Lobos. Inbound goes to Fly. Fly down low to Bainan, who passes it over, and then the shot from Jason Nunn hits. Nunn leading the way, 16 points on 8 of 12 shooting. She's 14th in the nation in field goal percentage with 60%, and that's only going to go up after tonight. Price trying to make something happen. Nice crossover, gets her inside, then she shoots from 10 feet, knocks it down. Victoria Price having a decent game as well. Back the other way, Bannon stops at the elbow, passes back up, gets it to Buck. Buck shoots from 3, and what do you know? Another three-pointer for New Mexico. Lobos 12 of 28 from the three-point line, and Buck now with 15 points. It's almost a competition between Buck and Nunn, trying to see who can score the most points. Nunn with 16, Buck with 15. Up top, here's Price over the left wing for Jensen. Back up to Price. Right wing for Olivia, gets up to the baseline, pump fake, stops, 10 feet out, then back up top to Price. 6 on the shot clock. Pass into Duffy, then over to the left, tries to get it over to Jensen, and it's poked away, stolen by Bannon, who comes back, and then a bad pass backwards gets stolen back by Utah State. Duffy has it and hands it back to Olivia to reset things for the Aggies in transition. Price tries to get it into Duffy. Duffy on the elbow, turns around, passes it back out to the right wing for Olivia. 3 up from Price, no good. Victoria Price really struggling from downtown this season. Had an open look there, so you can't blame her, but 15% shooter this year. Right wing, here's Bannon. Passes it back up top. 3, Tasha Buck can't hit. New Mexico still getting the same quality of looks from downtown, just not hitting. Price drives in, puts it off the glass, and then flying in for the offensive rebound is Deja Mason, and then a foul called on Utah State afterwards. Not sure who they got with that one. My vision was impeded. It was off the ball, and it's going to go back to New Mexico. So Bannon crosses midcourt. She has 10 assists. Mountain West leading passer. 8th in the nation in assists per game with 7.1. Already has 10. Nunn puts it up, grabs her own rebound, then puts it back up again. And that's another double-double for Jason Nunn. Her 12th of the season. She's 12th in the nation in double-doubles. Driving up, Olivia gets into the paint, puts one up. No good, but the offensive board by Brewster goes back up, no good again. And then Jensen comes swooping in for another offensive board. Utah State still showing some effort, and Jensen is fouled on the way back up. So a couple shots coming for Lindsey Jensen. Timeout called as we're under 5 minutes, so it's the media timeout for the quarter. And with 4:58 to go, Utah State trails New Mexico 66-41. We're going to cut out for a quick break and come back in just a moment with the remainder of the fourth quarter here in Albuquerque. All right, welcome on back to the Dreamstyle Arena here in Albuquerque, better known as the Pit. Utah State trailing the Lobos 66-41 with half a quarter left to play. Utah State, the second half, playing some pretty decent basketball. The third quarter was 17-17. Fourth quarter right now, it's New Mexico 7, Utah State 6. But just too big of a first half deficit for the Aggies to overcome. First shot as Lindsey Jensen's on the free throw line is good. Jensen, who entered today's game just 6 of 12 from the free throw line, is now 3 of 3 today. Make that 4 of 4 as she hits both. So Bainan across midcourt, then hands it over to Washington. Back up top, then over to Bainan. Bainan over the right corner, 3 up. Washington gets it to go this time. Washington is now 5 of 9 from the three-point line. Cannot be stopped from deep. Pass from Jensen inside is poked out of bounds by Nunn. Utah State really lucky that that's not a turnover there, as Nunn had a pretty easy hand on it, just couldn't control it, so that goes out of bounds, back to Utah State. Olivia over to Gear on the left wing, then back up to Olivia. Over to the right wing, here's Jensen. Olivia hands it back to Gear. Jensen dumps it in to Mason, then back up top. Utah State needs to shoot, 2 seconds. Brewster shoots from 15, doesn't go, but grabs her own board. Then hands it over to Jensen down low. Jensen had a lane, doesn't go, grabs her own rebound and puts it back up. Lindsey Jensen having a pretty nice night now. 6 points and 2 rebounds in 13 minutes. And Utah State now trails 69-45. Washington gets to the elbow, then dishes it up to Benyon. Bannon over to Fly, then up top. 3, no good. Bannon can't connect. And the Mountain West leading scorer still with just 4 points. And then a turnover in transition. Utah State just throws it right back away. Bannon comes up with another steal. She's got 2.5 per game. And having a great night on every aspect of the game except for the scoring aspect. New Mexico calls a timeout with 3:23 to go and a 69-45 lead. Utah State, the entire second half has been a flush so far. 17 points in the third for each team, 10 in the fourth for each team. But, I mean, you trail 24 at halftime, and that's what you're going to be looking at. For New Mexico, let's take a look at some of their numbers, because the phenomenal stat sheet for the Lobos. 4 players in double digits. Nunn has 18, Washington with 15, Buck with 15, and Laparolari with 11. Nunn just having a great night. 18 points, 11 rebounds. And Utah State with just a single player in double digits. That's Haley Bassett with 14 on 6 of 10 shooting, a couple of rebounds as well for Bassett. Back in, it's Lobo ball. Over to the right corner, Fly gets it, then passes it over to Nunn. Nunn puts it up, can't get it to go, grabs her own rebound, puts it back. That one won't go either, and then goes out of bounds off of Utah State. So a third opportunity coming for the Lobos. Baseline inbound for Bannon. Goes up to the left wing for Fly. She drives up, pump fakes from the block, gets an open shot, but that won't go, and then Jensen can't control the rebound, so another opportunity coming for the Lobos. With 23 seconds, they're going to inbound from the baseline. Laura Dalton checks in for her first action as Deja Mason comes out. Bannon passes it in towards the right corner. Gets it back to Bannon. 69-45 Lobos. Bannon passes it over to Washington. Washington up to the free throw line, then back out to Laparolari. Left wing, Bannon pump fakes, gets into the paint, passes it over. Jumper from Nunn, up and good. Make that the 12th assist for Bannon and the 20th point for Nunn. Olivia passes over to Jensen, then back up to Olivia, over to the left wing for Gear. Aggie spreading it out. Gear pump fakes all the way over, back over to the right wing for Jensen. Jensen to the right, cross court pass over to the left wing for Gear. Aggie guards doing everything on this possession. Olivia drives in, has it knocked out of bounds. They're going to say last touch by Utah State. So back to New Mexico, the possession goes. Big ovation for New Mexico as they're going to sub out Jason Nunn as well as Cherise Bannon. They're 2 stars. Nunn hitting the bench with 20 points and 12 rebounds. Bainan with only 4 points, but 12 assists. That's a ridiculous number there. Emily Lines, Jaden De La Cerda, and Erica Moore all check in for their first minutes of the game. Left corner, three goes up, and good. Linnea Bryan hits from the corner. She's a 40% three-point shooter this season, and now has 5 points tonight. Olivia up top, passes over to left wing for Gear. Back up to Olivia. This time to the right elbow. Jumper from Brewster won't go as she's blocked. Coach thought there was contact, but that's back to New Mexico. 1:35 to go in this one. Washington's pass stolen away by by Brewster, who passes over. Right wing three up. No good from Olivia West, and the rebound wrangled in by New Mexico. Lines gets her first rebound of the game. 1:14 to go. Lobos lead 74-45. Left wing three up and good. Jaden De La Cerda plays just a few minutes per game. Has only made a handful of appearances this season, but gets a three in her first couple of minutes on the court tonight. Left wing Brewster passes over to the right wing for Jensen. Jensen spins around, works her way up, shoots no good. Offensive board though by Utah State, and then a miss, but then another offensive board put back by Rachel Brewster. That was Laura Dalton with a board, and then back the other way, working up towards the basket. Linnea Bryan is fouled, knocks it down. The crowd on their feet, they love it. This New Mexico team is absolutely dominating in every aspect of the game. One shot, I should say, coming from the free throw line for Linnea Bryan. Bryan with 7 points, connects on the free throw. 35 seconds to go on this one. Utah State will bring it across. 5 seconds between shot and game clock. Gear passes it up top to Olivia. Olivia gets a screen from Dalton and passes over to Gear. Back up top to Olivia. Same offensive set we've seen the last few plays. This time Brewster over the right corner, three up. Jensen hits the side of the backboard. That is going to essentially do it as New Mexico comes down with the board. They're going to bring it across. 8 seconds to go on this one, and they'll just dribble it out. Standing ovation for this New Mexico team. Well deserved by the 5,000 plus in the arena, and they are loving it. New Mexico seems to be right back on track to where they started the season. They're going to win this one 80-47. Dominant win for the home team Lobos, who are now 14-1 in this building. 5-5 in Mountain West play and 17-6 on the season. Aggies fall to 5-17, 3-8 in Mountain West play, and 1-10 on the road. Combine that with a 0-2 in neutral sites, and Utah State has not done well on the road. The good news for the Aggies is they do finally get a little bit of a home trip. They're going to be back home for the next few games and get a couple of byes coming up here in the coming weeks. We now have Coach J.C. Carter coming over to join us, assistant coach from Utah State. Coach, it seems like the first quarter, I mean, at the first media timeout, it was real close. It was 11-10. It felt like Utah State was going to be able to keep pace. What happened after that media timeout where New Mexico was able to pull away?
We executed sort of half-court sets, and we were patient what we were trying to do. And then, New Mexico does a great job of controlling the tempo. When the tempo got going their way, then we got a little undisciplined, and we quit. We started playing individually, and we didn't execute the offense we were trying to. We were trying to take too many quick shots, and we knew they were going to make 8 to 10 runs, point runs. But at the same time, we got caught up in their tempo and shouldn't allow them to dictate tonight.
So Coach Finkbeiner, before the game, we were talking about it, and he talked about Sharice Bainan and how she's a phenomenal player. Of course, I mean, preseason Mountain West Player of the Year. She only got 4 points tonight. And, I mean, facilitated, of course, 12 assists, but 4 points. And he mentioned that a big part of the team's game plan was going to be stopping Jason Nunn, who came up with 20 and 12 rebounds. Just talk about this New Mexico team and what they were doing and how they got things clicking so well.
Well, because the style they play, they can play a lot of possessions, and so which allows some of their players to stat probably better than what they really should. But we really did key on Bain, and so our players did a great job scouting report-wise. But they had a couple others step up, like Maddie Washington. Obviously is not usually that good of a three-point shooter. Tonight, she shot it really well. I mean, overall, I think they shot probably about 50% from three. And so, you know, when you're hitting from deep, obviously with none inside, then all of a sudden you got to fly out to the shooters. Now it opens up back up for none, and so then she can score. And she's obviously the second best player on the team. And so, because they hit a couple early threes, I think we panicked a little bit and then allowed their inside game to get going.
Coach, finally get a few home games, get a couple of bye weeks here in the next few weeks, so hopefully the team can get rested up. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So that's Utah State assistant coach J.C. Carter, kind enough to come over and join us for a few minutes. Utah State, just not a ton of positives you can take away from this one, other than they stayed resilient up until the closing minutes of the fourth quarter. It was tied up in the fourth quarter. The third quarter was 17 apiece. They faced an enormous halftime deficit and then really just stuck it out, hung in there. But you're not going to be able to overcome a 20-plus point halftime deficit very often. They weren't even really able to close in on it. But you heard Coach Carter mention it there. New Mexico's a team of runs. When they get things clicking, when they start hitting from deep, which they were, given the Utah State defense wasn't doing a ton to stop it, they shot 15 of 33 from deep. And when a team does that to you, it's going to be really tough to even keep yourself in it. When a team scores 80 points, Utah State, you got to remember, this Aggie team, on average, scores about 58.9. They're one of the slowest-paced teams in the nation, playing one of the fastest-paced teams in the nation. This is often the result of games like that. It's just so tough to keep up with a Lobo team, and when you're not playing the defense that we've seen this Aggie team play at other points of the season, it's really not going to go your way. Coach Finkbeiner is also, I know, a huge emphasis, and if you listen to pregame, you heard him talk about this. A big emphasis has been rebounding. They did phenomenal against Fresno State in that. They actually did really well in that category tonight, so there's a positive you can take for Aggie fans. They were out-rebounded 36-34, so, a two-rebound deficit there. They hit the glass quite well. Aggies had 15 offensive rebounds. There's a positive for you. The Aggies outscored New Mexico in the paint 34-26, despite 20 points from Jason Nunn. Not sure how that even happens. But 28 fast break points for New Mexico to 4 for Utah State. Turnovers all day. 19 turnovers for Utah State to 14 for New Mexico. Utah State's leading scorer in this one, Haley Bassett, had 14 points in just 20 minutes of play. Had a couple of rebounds as well, and 6 of 10 shooting for Bassett. Lindsey Jensen had 8. Shannon Duffsey had 9. Duffsey also with 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Brewster with 6 points and 7 rebounds and a couple of assists. So overall, a pretty good night for Brewster on that in 25 minutes of play. For New Mexico, 4 players in double figures. You heard Coach Carter talk about it there, but Jason Nunn, 20 points, 12 rebounds for her 12th double-double of the season. Buck with 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Washington with 15 points, and Laparulari with 11. We're going to cut out here from New Mexico, but Utah State back at it. They've got finally their first bye week of the season, incredibly late. It's just how the Mountain West schedule plays out sometimes, but each team gets 2 bye weeks, and Utah State a good chunk of the way through Mountain West play, still yet to have one. So they're going to actually have Saturday off, which will be nice, and then they're going to head home for Wyoming. I said that the schedule really lightens up because here's what they've got coming up. They head back home, got a week off, got Wyoming. Then they head up to Boise State. That's a one-night trip. That's a bus ride, 4 hours up to Boise. And then back, they've got New Mexico at home, so they're going to see this Lobo team again probably sooner than they would like. They got a trip to Nevada, then another bye week. So it really lines up, and then the final 2 games of the season at home against Air Force and San Jose State, a couple of teams that are at the bottom of the end of the Mountain West Conference. So if you're a Utah State fan, that's what you're looking at. Aggies, though, fall to 5-17, 3-8 in Mountain West play. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's broadcast of Utah State Women's Hoops here on AggieRadio.com. Again, we'll be back at it a week from tonight. That's February the 7th, next Wednesday night, 7 o'clock p.m., as Utah State takes on Wyoming. Signing out from Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Utah State falls to the Lobos 80-47. I'm Jaden Johnson. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. And as always, go Aggies.